comes rum coming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over, over there, over there, over there. Send the word over.
Hey everybody, this is Joshua Littrell. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Veterans for Cannabis podcast today. I'm really excited. I got another veteran brother on the line today to talk about cannabis and just wonderful things that are happening in the industry itself. Jesse Larson, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing phenomenal, brother. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I can't say thank you enough just for taking the time out of your schedule to meet with us and just, embark your knowledge upon the industry itself. But, Jesse, before we get started and getting into the cannabis side, you are a veteran, and that's something that's really near and dear to my heart, being a veteran myself. But the biggest part of that is I believe, and I think you would probably second that we need more veterans in the cannabis industry itself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and of course, and thank you for your service. And I, the veterans in the cannabis industry, we're in a really good spot right now because it's a niche market still. It's not fully legalized everywhere, and the places where it is legalized, there are so many different avenues for veterans to get involved with cannabis. Not only on the growing side, but production, cultivation. The business aspect, just being a grower or learning the ins and outs like I did and trying to help other people get into the industry. Yep.
It's really exciting. You think about the military service and what we learned there, the objectives, the clearly identifying, goals, things that we need to set out to achieve. It's very similar in the cannabis industry. It's an easy transition.
Yes, very easy transition. A lot of it is a handshake and a good word, which something from the military. I'm not going to make a promise I can't keep or tell you a schedule that is unrealistic. A lot of these guys have been kind of duped with older types of consultants in the cannabis industry, and that's something that I have noticed even in my short time in the industry. There are a lot of swindlers out there, but I've gotten a lot of good feedback from people using the military's core values and things that I was taught, and implementing them on this side has been hugely beneficial, and it's been a game changer for quite a few different clients.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that military service, when you joined, what you did, the branch, and then we'll get into how that directly correlates into the cannabis industry. And this will be a two-part show, too. So not only are we going to embark upon your service to the country, but then we're going to get into the cannabis side in a two-segment show. So I'm really excited today.
Yes, sir. Likewise.
So, Jesse, tell us a little bit about your service. When did you join? What branch? And what really motivated you and drove you to join?
Oh, well, I joined the Army. Actually, tomorrow is my 10-year mark, September 9th, 2010.
Wow.
And my first day of basic training was September 19th, 2010, which actually was my 19th birthday, at Fort Knox, Kentucky, where I was going to OSET for 19 Delta Cavalry Scout.
Wow.
From there, I deployed to Iraq with 4th Brigade, 1st Armored, 2nd Squadron, 13th Cavalry Regiment out of Fort Bliss, Texas. Came back, started working more on the stateside side, being a stateside soldier instead of deploying.
What did you see in that transition, Jesse, from being, stateside soldier versus deployed soldier? What's that difference for our listeners to help them understand when we talk about, you and I get it, the people who've served get it, but the normal civilians don't. What's that difference in being deployed versus a normal stateside soldier?
So for me, the gearing up for deployment was always, it's kind of a guilty pleasure.
Sure.
That's what my job was to deploy and be out front and be the eyes and ears for the commander. Now, transitioning from being in a deployment setting and being able to maintain that the mental attitude for deployment doesn't translate well into coming back and being a stateside soldier and taking care of the motor pool, making sure your guys are getting trained correctly. Everybody's going to their appointments. People are going to school, basically becoming a 9-to-5 job instead of actually being on the front lines.
You know, and I don't think a lot of people understand that about our military, is that we do have kind of a 9-to-5, if you will, right? When we're stateside, but then we're 24/7 during that time too. But when we deploy, it is 24/7. Let's talk about that 9-to-5 when you're stateside before we actually deploy.
That stateside, I did a lot of work as an armorer. I liked working in the arms room. I liked teaching guys about marksmanship and just weapon readiness, how to take care of their weapons. I ended up excelling in that. Ended up being made unit armorer my last year of.
That's awesome.
Being in the Army. I worked for our squadron commander and our sergeant major, and that really, seeing the other side of it, not just being on the line, and seeing how command structures work and what the squadron commander and sergeant major have to deal with on a daily basis, that level of due diligence and just preparedness on their end was completely that changed the way I worked.
Well, you were a young man. You were a young man at that point in time, seeing them, right? And that's something you've not ever experienced or witnessed before. Correct.
Yeah, how did that very first time being away from home and stuff. So.
How did that change you? I mean, when you learned what your command does, how does that affect you directly in how you operate on a daily basis?
Yeah, it wanted me to get information to them more or less, more accurately. It made me want to do my job better. And being the best asset that I could to them in the position that I was. And that's something that I've striven to try and do ever since. Be the best asset I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really key is being the best asset we can, right? So on the armory side, what did you do? What was that daily operation for you on the stateside?
Daily operation as a stateside armorer, I'd come in after PT, get the arms room unlocked, see which inventories, if any, that I needed to do for that day. Any weapons that were down, I would perform maintenance or have it contracted out to a small arms weapons repair or larger weapons repair people on post. Then the afternoon was usually class. I'd have one class in the afternoon for the guys that I got to teach for about an hour, and we usually did weapon drills, maintenance, and that kind of stuff, where I'd have them clean weapons in the arms room.
All right, so let's get into before the military a little bit. So where are you from, and then did you have any weapons experience before then?
Yeah. I'm originally from Tucson, Arizona. Lived in the middle of the desert without a lot of stuff around. My father and mother are both from the upper Midwest, Wyoming and Montana. And so they raised me to hunt and fish from a very young age. And they had me shooting, got me a BB gun when I was, I think, 2.5 or 3. Awesome. So I've been shooting for a minute. It did instill on me some bad habits, but the Army did break me of them, thankfully.
As they're good at, right?
Yeah, as they are. My hands still hurt. Let's just say that.
Oh my gosh, that's too funny.
But it was kind of raised up, being outdoors. I like being outdoors, even though I'm kind of a nerdy kid at heart. I like video games. Video games are my release. But after growing up in Arizona and trying to figure out what I was going to do, I decided on the military after graduating high school early. I got out a semester early because of a shoulder injury, and I couldn't play football anymore. And so I went to go work for a geotechnical and environmental drilling company in Tucson. And
wow.
Working for them, I realized that I didn't want to stay in Arizona very much longer, especially Tucson.
Working outside too, I'm assuming.
Oh yes, every day.
Man, that's crazy. All right, so let's talk a little bit about football, since we are here in the midst of a pandemic when it looks like football may be coming back this week, and we're recording this in September. It'll air in October, right? So we'll be a little bit behind. But what did you play in football?
I played nose guard, middle linebacker, and fullback.
Nice, man. You know, when you join the Veterans for Cannabis podcast, you never know which direction it's going to go. So here we are, Cannabis podcast, talking about football, and that's the love of our life, man. I know how much you appreciate it. I know how much I appreciate it, and I'm really excited to see football come back full tilt, hopefully, at least college football.
Yeah. Oh, at least college.
Yeah, that's right. Fingers crossed, right? So, oh my gosh. Well, let's digress a little bit, right? So you joined the military, you joined the Army. Jesse, tell us what really drove you to join the Army versus the other services that were there. Did you have a recruiter that made an impression on you? What was the thought process there?
Well, I originally enlisted in the Marine Corps when I was 17.
Wow.
And I ended up getting disqualified because of a medical allergy. And the medical allergy that the Marine Corps didn't like, the Army had no problem with. And so at MEPS, my recruiter just handed my folder over from the Marine desk to the Army guy, and they pushed me through.
That is hilarious. Holy cow.
Yeah. And basically, and you know, I always wanted to join the military. I did. That was something that I grew up playing with GI Joes. I grew up playing Army out in the desert. It was something that I wanted to do. And after I remember September 11th very, very vividly. And it was during my 5th grade year, and I had a teacher who that year would talk about the wars and stuff getting ready to happen and stuff, and she said that these wars are going to affect everybody in these classes' lives, whether we knew it or not. And I didn't know what I was little, I didn't understand, but it always stuck with me. And then being there 8 years later, and being in the same area that I watched on TV get bombed during the invasion with that teacher, kind of stuff, and you know, and it's just kind of. I sat there and I was like, you know what, like this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be here, and I wanted to see it for myself. I wanted to experience it. And we're 2 peas in a pod in that one, Jesse. Yeah. You know, it was one of those itches. And I've talked to other vets too. I've talked to old vets, I've talked to young vets, see if that itch ever goes away. And it never does, as far as I can tell. So
I agree with you 100%, man. I would do anything that I could right now, and I'm a service-connected disabled veteran too. So I actually, when I got out, spent a couple of years, went to school, got my degree, and then I tried to go back in, and they're like, you know, anything above 30%, you're not coming back in the military, and it almost broke my heart. But now our purpose is what we do now, and that's to give back to the veteran community. So I still get to serve, but it's not in the same service that you and I long for and need. I agree. I don't think it ever goes away, brother. And will it ever go away for you?
I hope not, because I like it a little too much.
Yeah.
You know, I like that little itch every once in a while, you know, and giving back to the guys, you know, that's something too that I keep coming back with, you know, especially being in places where you see a lot of homeless vets, or you go down to the VA and there's guys that aren't doing that well. And like this industry will be able to change that.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I agree wholeheartedly. You know, and you growing up in Arizona, that was kind of the epicenter of what happened with the VA and all the negativity that it drew. Did you happen to see any of that or know anybody that had a terrible experience through the Veterans Administration in Arizona specifically?
In Arizona specifically, not that I'm tracking. Well, there was one story.